conceived back in 2020 with a resolve to dedicate the entire fortnight of independence entirely in thinking about, in understanding the values of Bharat, the campaign which actually brought um independence, and to revisit those inspiring stories. In this campaign, students, educators, thought leaders, and citizens come together through inspiring talks, lectures, competitions, and civic initiatives. The lecture series of the campaign seeks to instill patriotism, inspire responsible citizenship, and encourage every young Indian to think for Bharat, to speak for Bharat, and to work for Bharat. As a part of our 8th day in series, we have Shri Nandakumar ji with us. Namaskar, Nandakumar ji.
Namaskar.
He's a very small introduction about Nandakumar ji. Nandakumar ji is a distinguished thinker, a prolific author, and a leading intellectual in the voice of modern India. He hails from Pandalam, Kerala. He began his journey as a dedicated social worker and as an RSS Pracharak, spending decades at the grassroots level to understand the soul of the Bharat, so the Atman of Bharat. He currently serves as a national convener of Pravah, where he spearheads the intellectual movement to decolonize Indian mind. He is the visionary behind Lok Manthan, India's largest biennial cultural and intellectual conclave. An accomplished author in multiple languages, his notable works include Swaraj 75 and for the Changing Times, which of integrism, Ekatma Manavatavada. His life's mission is to harmonize our ancient darshana with the contemporary global challenges. It is basically an Indian mind with a global vision. Ji, we are glad to have you with us today. Ji will be talking to us about Vande Mataram and the entire history behind Vande Mataram. Ji, the platform's all yours. Thank you.
Namaskar. Very good evening to Chamaji, Prithvirajji, and all other members of the team Disha Bharat who have conceived this great idea of transmitting knowledge to our young generation, especially young generation who were already deprived of the learning of the content of this great nation, the history, the culture, the tradition, everything has been taken out of them. Our so-called mainstream education system hasn't been included this great knowledge. So to inculcate in them the affinity, the connection with our great nation through these type of programs, it's a really commendable job. So at the outset itself, I would like to congratulate all behind this great endeavor. Friends, 2 words, just 2, Vande Mataram. I bow to you, Mother. There is no other pair of words in our history that has carried so much on its shoulders. People walked to the gallows with them on their lips. Students left their colleges, schools the moment they heard them. The officers, the workers left their offices the moment they heard them. Ordinary men and women who owned almost nothing found in these 2 words something no empire could ever confiscate. Tonight, I want to tell you how a single line of poetry grew into the heartbeat of a whole rashtra. Maharishi Aurobindo has clearly defined and clearly explained in a short sentence what is Vande Mataram. I would like to quote him. Vande Mataram is the mantra that gave birth to a new Rashtra, a new nation. It is not merely a song of the past, it is also a song of the future. That was Aurobindo's comment. You all will be knowing that Aurobindo was the person who started a publication, a media, a newspaper in the name Vande Mataram, and it played a lot in the fight against the Britishers. And again, he explaining, I'm quoting again, a mantra with powerful, even mighty energy, not just a patriotic hymn, but a spiritually charged invocation. That is the way in which Aurobindo has seen Vande Mataram. Sri Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose also was a great admirer, great follower of Vande Mataram. And it was his war cry in INA also. He said, Vande Mataram is our national salutation, Rashtriya Abhivadan, and a symbol of the freedom struggle. He considered, he saw Vande Mataram as a symbol of our freedom struggle. Seeing Rashtra as mother and considering ourselves as the children of that mother, it is a great tradition of Bharat. Vande Mataram, in that sense, is a modern day reinterpretation or a remanifestation of the Vedic concept of ours about Rashtra. So Vande Mataram is not a new concept. It is a repetition, it is a continuation. It is a continuation of our great, indubitable cultural tradition. We can see in Atharva Veda, in the most famous Prithvi Sukta of Atharva Veda, it has been clearly mentioned that Mata Bhumi Putroham Prithivya. Many of our great thinkers used to say that Vande Mataram concept, which has been explained by, created by Rishi Bankin Chandra Chatterjee in the modern times, is a real reinterpretation, remanifestation of Mata Bhumi Putroham Prithivya concept. There are so many examples to be explained here, but the paucity of time, I would like to mention about one or two only. In Vishnu Purana, that sloka is very famous. Uttaram yat samudrasya himadre chaiva dakshinam varsham tat bharatam nama bharati yatra santati. Clearly, the contours of this great nation, this country, Uttaram yat samudrasya, samudra se uttar ki or, the northern side of the samudra, and the southern side of the Himalaya. Varsham, this area is known as Bharat, and it is our mother, and we all Bharatiyas are their children. Again, you please pass on to Kalidasa's period. In Kumara Sambhava, it is starting with this beautiful verse written by great poet Kalidasa. Astyuttaram dishi devatatma Himalayo nama nagadhiraja purvaparo toya nidhivagavya sthita prithivya iva manadanda. See, this Bharat, beautifully, Bharat has been explained by Kalidasa as our mother. The great tradition, the personification of the sacredness of this nation. Bharat's Atma has been explained. Bharat's body has been explained in that sloka. So in that perfect line, Vande Mataram was also born, came through Rishi Bankinendra Chatterjee. See, it was not just a poem. Or Vande Mataram, the Panjakshari was not just a slogan. So I would like to say it was born, or it came through Rishi Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. The beautiful construction of Vande Mataram mantra, you please see in our tradition, mantra tradition, it should have three parts. The first part is the desha, country, or adhara, adhisthana of this land. It has been explained in the first part of the Vande Mataram. When you analyze it clearly, the desha part can be seen. Second part, the important part is the pupil part, the people, loga, log. And the third, that is the Atma part, it can be explained, said in Dharma part. Desha part starts from Sujalam, Subhalam, Malaya Jashitalam, Sasya Shamalam Mataram. That is, you all can understand, those who know or those who are Bharatiyas who once heard Vande Mataram, they all remember that part. That is only the Desha part or the country part of this Rashtra. It must have a Loga, the living community in this land, that is people. That starts from Koti Koti Kandha Kala Kala Ninada Karale, Koti Koti Bhujair Thrida Kara Karavale. That is the Loga part. So the land, then comes Log or people, and then comes the Atma, the real Atma, the soul of this land. It has also been explained by the Rishi Bengichandra Chatterjee. I don't want to say him as a poet. I would like to, yes, Nan Rishi Kavi. Every Kavi must be a Rishi. So Rishi Rabindranath Tagore explained the beautiful, the most important, the most lively part of that soul part, that is Dharma. Tumi Vidya, Tumi Dharma, Tumi Hriti, Tumi Marma, Tumi Prana Sharire. That is the prana of this Sharira. But yes, I will explain it later. You know, the those people who don't know the essential part of this great Vande Mataram mantra, they cut away those parts. What all parts? Loga part and Dharma part has been cut away in 1936. Again, I will come to that later on. It was born, I already said, it has not been created, it born, and it came through Rabindranath Tagore on the auspicious day of Kartika Shukla Paksha Navami or Akshaya Navami, or in Bengal it has been celebrated as Jagat Dhatri Puja Din. It was Jagat Dhatri, the Mata of the whole universe. See, Bangichandras, this Dharma part or Atma part of the later part of the Vande Matra is concluding in this beautiful line, Dharanim, Dharanim Mataram. Hey Jagathatri, you please rule all the world. That's a beautiful part. Those who are not knowing this essential part and the life inside it, that the spirituality inside it, they cut away that part. Okay. Anyway, on that auspicious day of 1875, if you are calculating it in the Gregorian way, 1875, November 7th, it was born on the auspicious day of Kartika Shukla, Paksha Navami, Akshaya Navami or Jagathatri. See, Ravindranath, Bangichandra Chatterjee already said he was not a slogan maker. It began quietly, the way most great things do. Around 1875, Rishi Bangichandra Chatterjee sat down and wrote or created this hymn to the land he loved. He wasn't drafting a slogan. He did what all other rishis do. He looked at the rivers, the fields, the harvests of the Bengal, and he saw it as the mother. His Atma, his Buddha, his Mana, everything has been watched. He wrote over sweet waters, or cool winds, rock hearts, heavy with fruit. A few years later, he folded that hymn into his novel Anandamat. And the verses first reached readers through the pages of his journal Banga Darshan. He was running a journal in the name of Banga Darshan. He was the editor and also the owner, Banga Darshan. It also played a great role in creating the mind of the people to fight for this nation, Banga Darshan. For a while, it stayed just a beautiful poem, but some poems refused to stay on the page. In 1896, at the Calcutta session of the Congress, a young boy named Rabindranatha, you know the surname also, Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, stood up and set it to a tune and sang it. Bangichandra's mantra has been given tune by Rabindranath Tagore, young Rabindranath Tagore, a gifted singer also. That was the moment the poem left the library and walked out into the open air. From then on, it belonged to belonged less to banking. We can say that it belonged less to banking and more to the people. And during that period in 1875, November 7, after it was, okay, we have to say that it has been written uh, on the day of the publication of the issue, on that meeting, on that week, the staff found that one column was found vacant. There was not enough article or news to fill that particular vacant space. So the staff, the editorial section people, approached Bengindra to fill a vacant column. And suddenly he took that one paper in which he was jotted down that Kavita, Vande Mataram. He handed them a copy of the Vande Mataram he had written. Whether he had actually written it at that moment or whether it had simply been born of itself is difficult to say. They printed it. An interesting incident took place after that. The prophecy of the great Rishi. To explain that, this anecdote is necessary. That is why I'm saying about that. But when his nephew, they are also part of the Vanga Darshan movement, and they are also the devotees of Rishi Bengindra Chatterjee, but they are as good as friends also to their uncle. His nephew and some of his friends read it. They were not particularly impressed. They asked the poet, "What kind of language is this, uncle? It sounds rather like a mixture of different tongues, different languages. Nothing seems quite clear or easy to understand. It is just like a kichadi." They couldn't understand the great inner meaning of that mantra. But at that time, Rishi Vengajendra replied. That reply became a prophetic presentation. I'm quoting his words. Today you and your companions will not understand its significance. Wait a little and see. Within 25 or 30 years, see the years he was saying, 25 or 30 years, it was in 1875, and plus 30 means 1905. You all know the significance of 1905 in the great history of Bharat's independence struggle, to be more specific. He said, within 25 or 30 years, because of this song, it will not be Bengal alone that rises, it will be the whole Hindustan. The whole Hindustan will rise, chanting this mantra. That was his great prophecy. In this particular aspect, I just going back to the history, the cultural history or the historical background of Bengal and Bharat during that period. How this particular creation occurred, it has got definitely a sacred, cultural, historical, and political, of course, political background to this. The 18th century, the situation of the 18th century in Bharat, and especially the Bengal atmosphere, in 1757, Plassey War took place, and it is being considered as the failure, the loss, the defeat of Bharat before Britain. And after that, Bharatiyas, our Bharat, people are not ready to succumb before the pressure of this invaders, the British people. We fought back in through under the leadership of our great sannyasins, and that is known as Sannyasi Kranti, Sannyasi Revolution, or stretched to 4 decades, 1760 to 1800. That means the end period of the Uttarartha of the 18th century to the beginning of the 19th century. Uh, it is being considered as the modern nationalist movement and the spiritual political upsurge, or you can put it in this way, the swa content, the selfhood content of the nation started striking back. Here, dharma and our fight back, the fight back and also dharma of this nation, the spirituality of this nation, we cannot divide it there. It started. And again, after some 50 years, there started Sandal Sangarsha. Sandal Sangarsha. That is known as 1855 to 1856 Sangharsha. That was, people are the experts or the historians, some historians try to put it as a predominantly economic, financial war, which was not a financial war. It was a Jal, Jungle, Jamin ki raksha ke liye हुए संघर्ष to save our land, our forest, and everything. So, and then 1857. After that, in 1868, Hindu Mela was formed. Hindu Mela, also inspired by the nationalist content, patriotic feeling, and under the leadership of nationalist Nabgopal Mitra and Narayan Bose, it was started. Just as there was an awakening in the political, social, and spiritual spheres, the literary sphere too witnessed during this period a remarkable emergence of national self expression. It was a natural manifestation of the national consciousness that had flowed continuously from the Vedic age through the Upanishadic and Puranic tradition and onward into the poetic world of Kalidasa and Bhavabhuti and our Bhakti age Kavis. So many poets came into being. So many poets are there. I don't want to explain about everyone, but you will find this nationalist or self-hood expression through literature has happened all over Bharat, specifically in Bengal. One of the close friends of Bangichandra Chatterjee, his name was Bhudev Mukhopadhyaya. He's a Sanskrit scholar, a great poet, a close friend of Bangichandra Chatterjee. He wrote a beautiful poem at that period. Its name was Adhibharati. And in that Padi, in Adhibharati, please watch these 2-3 lines, how it was very much representing the soul content of this great nation. He wrote, Matar Namami Bhavatim Saldeha Rupam Matar Namami Padayukma Dhruta Samudram Matar Namami Vasudha Talapunya Tirtha Matar Namami Himagiri Kirida Bhusham. So how beautifully he had explained Bharat, its boundary and everything. In the same way, in Patmini Upadhyaya, Upakhyan, Patmini Upakhyan, Rangalal Chandopadhyaya, who was another poet, contemporary of Rishi Rabindranath Tagore, स्वतंत्रता के बिना अपमानित होकर जीने की इच्छा कौन करता है अपने की टांगों की जंजीरों में बांधने की चाह क्या किसी मनुष्य को होता है होती है जंजीरों से स्वयं बांधना अपने टांग who likes it ऐसा he also wrote another sundar kavita beautiful kavita named Bharat Sangeet written by Hemachandra Bandyopadhyaya. There are a lot of poets of that period. We have to learn, and many of you must. I would like to request many of the researchers, scholars sitting here, hearing this, should try a research work on this, all this aspect. We'll find out the SWA content, and also we can develop that SWA framework for our future intellectual activities. हेमचंद्र बंदोपाध्याय in Bharat Sangeet said, मेरी बांसुरी बज उठो इन पंक्तियों को गाओ इस संसार में सभी स्वतंत्र है स्वतंत्रता. Later on, Veera Savarkar also wrote about Swatantrata. Here, Hemachandra Bandyopadhyay in 1863, he wrote about this. There are a number of poets. One another poet I would like to say, the time is very limited. So another important poet, that is the eldest brother, you would like to say, of Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, Satyendranath Tagore, who was the first ICS officer of Bharat. He wrote a Sundar poem for Hindu Mela. Hindu Mela I have already mentioned. And he wrote, Bharatamba ke santano ek sat gavo ma tejasvi hai. Ma spiritual hai. Atma hai, adhyatmika hai. So in this way, so many poems. In 1875, in the Hindu Mela program, Hindu Mela Varshik Ayojan, a 12-year-old boy wrote a Sundar poem about Bharat and the self-content of this Rashtra, Hindutva. He wrote a poem. That 12-year-old boy was Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. That poem's name was Hindu Mela Upahar, in which he poignantly asks, when shall those days come again? When shall those days return again? The days when our sacred motherland was ruled by Lord Rama, the scion of Raghu. Raghuamsha Prabhava, Sri Ram. कब आएंगे वापस इस देश को सत्ता चलाने के लिए? That was Rabindranath Tagore when he was only 12 years old. 88 line long poem was learned by heart by that Kavi, that poet, and he sung it there beautifully. So in the same way, in that line, Bangichandra also wrote so many poems. He has also started his poetic work. He was a born patriot also, in a born patriot in the sense. So there is a beautiful anecdote, an incident took place in the life of Bangichandra. Bangichandra was a disciple or devotee of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Thakur Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He used to visit Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa knows him very well. Once he asked Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, how did Bangim become Bangim? You know, in Bengal, Bangim means curved, bent. That is the meaning of Bankim in Bengali. So, how did you become Bankim? Suddenly, Bangim, with a smile, with his characteristic wit, he replied, from the kicks of British boots. ब्रिटिश बूट्स के लात मारने से मैं इतना इस प्रकार कुब्ज बन गया, नहीं तो मैं कर्व्ड हो गया, बेंट हो गया ऐसा. So right from Durgesh Nandini to lot of first literary works, novels, kavitai, charukatha, I mean short stories, all written by Bangim Chandra Chatterjee. And at last in 1875, he wrote, or that great mantra came out of him. And the real test of Vande Mataram, I would like to put it as the song finds its fire. The real test came in 1905. Now we should be clear about what Bengal was in those days. It wasn't the Bengal we picture now. The Bengal presidency was enormous. It stretched across today's West Bengal and also Bihar, Orissa, Assam, and the lands of the Northeast. It was one of the largest and most restless provinces the British had to govern. And that restlessness worried them. The idea of cutting Bengal in two wasn't new. It had been floated as far back as 1866, raised again in 1886, and then picked up in earnest by Lord Curzon at the close of the century. On paper, they called it administrative convenience. In truth, the reasons ran deeper. England had just come out of a bruising war in South Africa, and its aura of invincibility had cracked. A renaissance of thought and confidence was rising out of Bengal. And much of it traced back to the words of Swami Vivekananda, whose return had lit a fire in the young. And here is the point the rulers understood, better than we sometimes admit. In Bengal, people were beginning to stand together across the old lines of caste and creed. A united people is difficult to rule. That's a reality. A united people is very much difficult to rule. They knew it. A divided one is so easy to rule. So their age-old strategy of divide and rule is started. So the line on the map was really a line drawn through a people. The line on the map was really a line drawn through a people, carved deep into the heart. Curzon put the plan to London in 1902, and it appeared officially in the Gazette in 1903. Think about what was at stake. Had there been no resistance, the whole of the Northeast, the Seven Sisters, as we call them now, might well have drifted away in the years that followed. This was not a small quarrel over the stakes. It was a question of whether a land could be kept whole. A cry for the unison, the unity, it becomes a movement. The protest began in 1904, at first with sharp, sarcastic, tight little notices in the Bengali press. But when the partition was formally announced, something changed in the air. Within days, a new fellowship was born, sworn to carry the cry of Vande Mataram from door to door. Foreign cloth was gathered into great heaps and burned like an offering in a sacred fire. And over the flames, people chanted those same those two words, Vande Mataram. Young men formed samitis and akhadas. Many of you may be knowing at that time there were Vande Matara samitis. The leaders uh, decided some uniforms for the members. Physical trainings were there. Danda has been practiced. They were given physical training through akhadas. They masked at dawn with the Prabha, the Bheri. They even wore a plain uniform they called the Vande Mataram dress. Ganavesh. They have got Ganavesh. Some of the researches about the Sangha research has been done. The uniform, the Ganavesh, which has been adopted in Sangha, some are finding the roots in this Vande Mataram Samiti uniforms. On the day the partition took effect, in October 1905, Rabindranath gave the movement one of its most beautiful gestures. He asked the Hindus and Muslims and all people to tie rakhis on one another's wrists as brothers, and he wrote a song for it, Raksha Bandhana Gita, unity poem. One thread, he said, binds 100 million. One purpose joins 1,000 lives. Vande Mataram. Raksha Bandhan, a festival of the family, became for one day a festival of the whole people. And then the cry spread far beyond Bengal. Many of you may be knowing in 1906, one great patriot, the great son of this nation, Subramanya Bharatiya from Tamil Nadu, went straightway to Kolkata, sat on the sacred foods, the lotus feet of Bhagini Nivedita, and he was initiated by Bhagini Nivedita to the revolutionary work. He received mantra, Vande Matara mantra from Sister Nivedita. And in Tamil, the first translation of Vande Mataram took place, but through Subramanya Bharatiya. You may be knowing the first local language adaptation of Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, was also in Tamil, done by Kamba Ramayana. The same thing repeated in Vande Mataram's case also. Subramanya Bharatiya translated it into beautiful Tamil. And it became a cry of Bengal, Tamil Nadu also. And this cry reached Punjab. And in distant London also, at that time in 1908, Vinayaka Damodara Savarkar, the Prince of Revolutionaries, was studying for barrister examination there in London. In 1908, Savarkar gathered exiles to honor the martyrs of 1857. And once again, the same two words, Vande Mataram, rang out there beyond the Sagar ocean. What had started as a hymn to Bengal's rivers was now the common speech of a nation awakening. See the transformation, how it is happening. How the prophecy made by Rishi Bingin Chatterjee became a truth before the reality before us. Another thing, another controversy, I would like to answer it also, and then I will conclude my speech. That is, some people are saying the love of the land is only for Hindus. Muslims cannot love land as mother, or some other religious practitioners cannot see a land as a mother or a devata. Now I want to speak honestly about that question. That has followed this song like a shadow. Still now, you may be knowing it is still continuing. Some have asked whether reverence for the motherland belongs solely to one community, whether picturing the land as a mother sits uneasily with this faith or that. It is a fair question and it deserves a fair answer, not an angry one. So let us simply look around us. Let us look. Look at the national songs of our neighbors and of many nations across the Muslim world. Pakistan's anthem calls its soil Pag Sar Zameen, Pak Sar Zameen, a sacred land and prays for its blessings. Bangladesh sings Tagore's own words, My golden Bengal, I love you, addressing the land plainly as a mother. Turkey speaks of the beloved and sacred homeland and the willingness to die for it. Iran, Afghanistan, Indonesia, Algeria, each in its turn sings of the soil, the mountains, the rivers, the blood shed to keep them free. None of this is the worship of an idol. It is something older and simpler. It is the recognition that the land is identity. The land is history. The land is worth a sacrifice. Love of the soil is not the property of any single faith. It is a human inheritance. To say the idea of a motherland is foreign to this faith or that is quite plainly not borne out by history. Already said, it's a mantra. In that way, it is to be approached. Then a lot of confusions can be solved. I'm going to speak about a debate that has trailed this song for 100 years, and I want to speak plainly because I think we have often told this part of the story wrongly. We are used to hearing that objections were raised, that in 1923 at the Kakinada conference, you are all aware about that, what happened at that time. Maulana Muhammad Ali refused to sit and hear Vande Mataram. But Vishnu Digambara Paluskar, that great nationalist singer, sang it fully. Maulana Muhammad Ali went out of the conference hall. Once the Dharaneem, Bharaneem, Mataram, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai finished, then that guy came back, again sat on the president's chairman's chair. That happened in 1923. None of the great leaders dared to say that you you haven't got the right to sit again in the chairman's position as you have defamed my nation, belittled my nation, mother country. It is to be said, but it has not been said. 1937, the Congress in its wisdom kept only the first two stanzas and set the rest aside. And this was an act, they were claiming that it was an act of maturity. I no longer believe maturity is the right word for what happened. To see why, you have to understand what Vande Mataram actually is. It is a mantra, in the several times I have repeated. It is built like a mantra, in the way our own tradition has always built its sacred speech. Look at how it moves. It begins with the body of Bharat, that I already have said, and then to the people part and the dharma and all other parts, and culminating in that beautiful finish, the palasiddhi of that mantra, Dharaneem, Dharaneem, Mataram. How can one remove that part, that most important part out of it? It is the highest thing the poem can say, that this country is not a stretch of soil to be administered, but a living consciousness to be revered. And that is why I cannot call the cutting of the song an act of maturity. It came from a much narrower place than that. It came from a way of seeing that can only picture the divine as an object of exclusive worship, that cannot hold the sacred and national together in a single breath. Judged from inside that small frame, of course, the later verses look like a problem to be solved. But the frame was far too small for the poem. What was set aside was not a difficulty to be managed. It was the soul of the mantra. They kept the body and let go of the spirit and then called the laws a virtue. I say this without the smallest wish to wound anyone. Love of the motherland, as we have already seen, belongs to every people and every faith. But we should be honest with ourselves. The fullness of Vande Mataram was never something to apologize for. It was the gift. And this is why I love the small story from 1947 all the more. On our very first Independence Day, the director of AER, All India Radio, asked the great musician, Pandit Omkarnath Thakur, to sing. He was the Shishya of Vishnu Digambara Paluskar, to sing only a part of Vande Mataram. Thakur answered simply, "We will sing the whole of it." They let him. And he did. On Free Bharat's first morning, the mantra was allowed to be a mantra again, from body to soul entire. 3 years later, in 1950, Vande Mataram took its formal place beside Janagana Mana. But it is that morning in 1947, when a musician refused to sing only half of a prayer, that tells you almost everything about what this song is and what it always longed to be, what the song asks of us. So, this is the journey. A poem in 1875, a literary jewel in the pages of Bangadarshan, a spiritual and national song inside Ananda Bhatt, and at last a mantra that woke a sleeping country. From one man's love of his rivers to land, tradition, history to 100 million voices. That is the arc of Vande Mataram. But a song like this is never really finished. It keeps asking something of each generation. It asks us to see the land not as property to be divided, but as a mother to be cherished. It asks us to stand together across every line that others would draw through us, because that unity was always the thing our rulers feared most. And it asks us to keep faith with those who walk to the gallows with these two words, Vande Mataram, on their lips. By living well, the freedom they died to give us. By living well, the freedom they died to give us. So let me end where I began. So let me end where I began. Two words, just two. Vande Mataram. Namaskar.
Nandakumarji, your energy is absolutely infectious, what I must say. I mean, this 40 minutes has been absolutely mesmerizing and amazing. I mean, just the word amazing. Amuse me. Thank you so much, Nandakumarji. A few questions. Um, you said that you know, we cut the song insofar as the loka part of it is concerned and the dharma part of it concerned was kept away. Eventually, but this was the song in its entirety which actually fought against the Bengal partition. A hypothetical question, maybe a little controversial too. Do you think if we had kept this song in its entirety, if we had received the energy every time throughout, then is there a chance that we could have still been a part of the Akhanda Bharats that we always dreamed to be in?
It's not at all a controversy, Rakshaji. Your observation is 100% correct. On and often in my books also, in those books which have been mentioned by you, I have mentioned about this. In 1905, the actual struggle started, Vanga Bhanga Virodhi Andolan. In 1904 to 1912, it went on like fire. Who was the leader? Who was that great towering personality who led us? No single person was there as a leader to lead us. I would like to say it was Vande Mataram, the great mantra, led us to victory. In its totality, it was inspiring us. Which party was there? A pan Bharatiya presence. With that pan Bharatiya presence, which political party was there? Do you think that Congress was present from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, Kutch to Kamarupa? No, not at all. It was a urban centered party. Congress was not leading it. I would like to say, some may say myself as a was following a superstition, but it is not like that. It was an actual reality. Vande Mataram in its totality was leading us. That's why we were able to defeat Britain. The Britain, which was strong enough to challenge the whole world on one side and standing alone on one side, and they were saying they are capable enough to challenge the whole world. That Britain was defeated. They have decided to divide it, but they were forced to withdraw that decision. But what happened in 1947? Yes, you have mentioned about Akhanda Bharata. We were, unfortunately, we were divided. Why it has happened? After 1912, 1913, after 1920, some people who came to the power in the sense, the leadership of the Congress, they were of the opinion that Vande Mataram is a communal song. How can we say the real manifestation of our mother itself is being called as a communal song, as a bhajan? Was it? Not at all. It was inspiring us like anything. During that Vanga Bhanga Virodhi Andolan, even the Muslim community as a whole, expect some few leaders, the communal leaders of the Muslim League and all, they were against Vande Mataram, but the total population was in favor of Vande Mataram. So we were able to win. So we were able to defeat Britain. But what was the condition of Britain in 1940s? They might have okay, in a formal way, we were in the history it has been marked that Britain and their forces were won in the Second World War. But what was the actual position? They were defeated, and they were not able to hold on to their great empire. They were ready to leave Bharat at any moment, means give freedom at any moment. Even though such a weak Britain defeated us in 1947, August 14th and 15th, midnight. It was the lack of inspiration in our people. Everything which is just got some connection with these great lands, great nations, culture, tradition, and our age-old philosophy, some are there to say that it is all religious. Some are there to suppress and negate everything related to culture, the civilization as religion, the mere religion. Bharat's religion is entirely different. What they are saying, it is a Semitic religious concept they forced upon Bharat or Hindus. That is why our strength was lost. I do consider exactly, I'm very much supporting your observation. If Vande Mataram was continuing as the leader of this great movement, this pathetic situation would not have happened. I am damn sure about that. Even the people who are following other religious habits, religious worship methods, they will also sang Vande Mataram with all pride. I have already said Pak national song. It is all about their land, the Pavitra land, Bangladesh, even Algeria. Why can't Vande Mataram become close to their heart also? But the leaders themselves forsake it. They try to divide it. Vande Mataram was divided first. Then only Bharat was divided. If it would not have happened, of course, yes, we would have been blessed to live in Akhanda Bharata.
Nandakumarji. 1905 to 2026, the youngsters today, um, how do you think they would understand the mantra Vande Mataram today?
One thing which I would like to say that our youngsters, must try to learn the history, or we people who are considered to be the mature people would make some arrangements like this Disha Bharat, My Bharat programs. It must be continued, and also new chapters have to be started, and that particular period is to be learned properly. Then only we can say that we can our the great history can be made again. I would like to mention about another aspect also, what happened because of this great prerana which has been made by Vivekananda and also Rishi Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, Bankindranath Chatterjee, and through this great mantra, so many new beginnings, new startings happened in that period. It is quite impressive. I would like to put it in a chronological way. First, I have already mentioned about Hindu Mela was started in 1867. I want to take you back to 1867. In G. Subramania Iyer and his friends, five friends known as Triple K, Subramania Iyer plus five, Triple K six. They were thinking about starting a newspaper to inculcate national feeling in young generation, English educated young generation. In 1878, they started a paper and gave, without any iota of doubt, Hindu, the Hindu. What is that Hindu? Now it's a question. Okay, anyway. Chandranatha Basu in 1892 wrote a book in the name Hindutva, Hindutur Pragur, and in that the Hindutva word has been coined. In 1902, with the prerana from Swami Vivekananda, and also the song written in 1875 at Ananda Mata, it has been inspired, and P.C. Roy wrote the history of chemistry and without any doubt gave the name the Hindu chemistry. Harbila Sarada in 1906, Harbila Sarada, the great scholar, wrote a book about the superiority of Bharat and gave the name Hindu superiority. And in 1907, our southerner, Chambagraman Pillai, coined the word Jai Hind in 1907. Girindranatha Mukhopadhyaya, 1909. Why I am saying all these things? You have asked that question, that's why I am saying, and our young generation should ponder to go deep into this. What was the prerana? What was the inspiration? In 1909, Girindranatha Mukhopadhyaya wrote he was a practicing doctor. He wrote a book on our medicine and also surgical instruments and gave the name Hindu surgical instruments. In 1917, K.P. Jaiswal wrote a book about the political science and gave the name Hindu polity. In between 1914 and 21, what all intellectual movements are also very much coinciding with the political part. That's what which I am trying to say. In between the period of 1914 to 21, 7 years, Binoy Kumar Sarkar, great social scientist, he wrote a book named about the sociology of Bharat, Hindu sociology. And he wrote about international relations, IR, and gave the name Hindu Theory of International Relations. And in 1930, Bubudi Bhushan Datta, a great mathematician, he wrote a book on mathematics and gave the name Hindu mathematics. And in between, I would like to say, I want to add that great moment also when Mahatma Ji wrote his great book about his political theory and gave the name Hindu Swaraj. So the intellectual literary movement took place in that later period of the 19th century and the beginning period up to 1930 were all inspired by the Swa content of this great land. And on the very basis of that theory and everything, Bharat was about to be reorganized and more strengthened and go forward in our own way. So, but you know what happened at the point of time? Some people came into the leadership And they started saying this nationalist feeling and the consciousness and all are very rubbish. Sanskrit is a dead language. Our culture is a inferior culture. We haven't got a history of success. We have to start with the defeats. All these things came into the mind, and our confidence and courage was being destroyed by these people. I would like to say again, request our members who were studying, learning in the political science, social science, sociology, in general, humanities, they must take these topics to research, ponder upon. These areas are not being properly investigated, researched. So then only we can come up, and also again Bharat will be strengthened. Our nation will be strengthened. It must be an essential part of the project Amrita Bharata. If Bharat is to become Amrita Bharata, this is to be done. That's my conclusion. Namaskar.
So much, Nandakumarji. We reach 7:58. We are the last 1 hour has been an amazing experience to each one of us, where we have tried, or rather delved into a little part of history to understand Bharat through the history of Vande Mataram, the very darshana of Bankimji, brought in so beautifully by Nandakumarji. We are blessed to hear you, Nandakumarji. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm privileged to be here before you to explain something which I know. Okay. I'm so happy to join you again. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Um, I my heartfelt dhanyavads to all our viewers on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this fortnight uh, of celebration towards Bharat's celebration of the Swatantra of Bharat. Tomorrow, between 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., we have the live sketch of Shriyuta Vanjinathanji being uh, brought out, along with a small talk on embracing modernity while preserving our heritage. All of this is being done by the students of Karnataka, of the college students. So I welcome all the students to be a part of it, hear them, and tomorrow evening, again, we go towards, we have a talk by Shri Aditya Raj Kaulji, Senior Executive Editor, NDTV, who is an analyst in strategic affairs. So we kindly join us again at 7 p.m. tomorrow for a wonderful talk on From Valor to Vigilance, the story of India's armed forces and national security. Along with that, we also have another program of Walkathon, Walk for Bharat. Tomorrow morning, that is 10th August 2026, we meet at the Malleshwaram grounds at 6:30 a.m. The program is going to be between 6:30 and 9:30. We're expecting nearly about 1,500 students. Uh, the energy is going to be infectious. I'm inviting all our viewers to make time. I know it is a Monday morning, but please come join us. And let's all walk for Bharat with this. Dhanyavad. Thank you so much for your time. Let's again meet tomorrow morning for those of us in person in the morning at 6:15, and for those of us who can do it only virtually in the morning at 7 a.m. Thank you. Thank you so much.